after helping reignite the modern horror genre with films like Get Out and Paranormal Activity. Producer Jason Blum wants to breathe life into 90s slashers Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. This will follow the producer's reportedly successful attempt at bringing Michael Myers back into the spotlight with this year's upcoming sequel, Halloween. An up-and-coming producer in the mid-90s and early 2000s, Jason Blum ultimately made a name for himself in Hollywood's horror landscape with the low-budget, found-footage movie Paranormal Activity, his meteoric success with Blumhouse Productions, which he founded, led to other successful ventures in the horror genre like Sinister, James Wan's Insidious franchise, the Purge franchise, and the Oscar-winning Get Out. This year he'll be revisiting John Carpenter's seminal horror classic Halloween with a direct sequel set 40 years after the original. Now, branching off the high demand of nostalgia-driven content, Blum has his eyes on two other slasher movie favorites, Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. Related, Blumhouse will make a sequel to Halloween 2018 if it performs well. Speaking with Simon Thompson via Forbes, Blum opened up about his enthusiasm towards notable horror franchises that he'd be more than happy to revisit, if not remake entirely. He touched upon a tweet he had addressed to fans, asking what other franchises they would want him to tackle, and both Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer were mentioned. That said, Blum explained, despite his enthusiasm, the process of acquiring rights for either franchise wouldn't be quite as simple as he'd like. He said, I would like to do both of them, but it's a rights situation with all those movies. It's very tangled and very complicated. It's one thing to say you want to do them and it's a whole other thing to get to actually do it. Blum referred to Halloween's long-winded development process for context. He explained that it took him roughly 5 years to settle any rights issues before anything was official, and that things would be no different for the aforementioned franchises. He didn't reveal officially whether or not Blumhouse was actively pursuing rights to either movie. If Blumhouse did ultimately acquire the rights to either movie, or both, an entirely new set of doors would open pertaining to Blum's creative approach. Scream has already transcended film and is entering its third season as a television series on MTV. While the original I Know What You Did Last Summer was a loose adaptation of Lois Duncans' novel. So, would Blum prefer a remake of the former and an adaptation that's truer to the source material for the latter? Or would he simply take the same approach he's taking with this year's Halloween and revisit surviving characters from the originals with an evolved narrative? Given his golden touch on horror, odds are whatever approach he takes will be a successful one. Source: Forbes Tags. Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer.